Hi everyone, and welcome again to my audiovisual channel. I am Gabriela Handal, a draftsman and the host of this show, A Conversation About Art. During each episode, I look for the meaning of art and beauty through conversations with colleagues in different artistic fields. Today, I bring you episode 49, and I will have this conversation with artist and writer Milène Fernandez. If you'd like to support this podcast, liking and sharing this video is a great way to do it, and so is subscribing. These forms of support are immediate and have no additional cost. If you want to support the podcast with money, this is also an option and quite welcome. And you can do so by purchasing my drawings directly from my website, buying stuff I make from eBay, buying prints of my drawings, or leaving a tip. The links for these things are in the show notes. Thank you very much for watching and/or listening, and enjoy the episode. All right, Milène Fernandez, welcome to my podcast, A Conversation About Art. You are episode 49. Please tell our listeners and viewers who you are and what you do.
Who I am. I'm Milène Fernandez. I am an arts writer, an editor, Sunday painter. That's pretty much what I do these days. Former artist model, experimental filmmaker, installation sculptor, artist, dancer. So I've dabbled in a lot of things. Former journalist. I kind of got into writing about art when I was the correspondent or staff at the Epoch Times newspaper. And I was doing profile articles about all kinds of interesting people. And then I was asked to interview an artist. And then from then on, I only interviewed artists. Mm-hmm. And that went on for about 4 years. So I really kind of dove into the, especially atelier world. So most of the artists that have been trained at one or some other atelier or academy. And that kind of circled back to the time when I was in grad school, when I was an artist model, when I was going to grad school at NYU. So it kind of, I came full circle with, entering that world again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was reading a little bit about you before starting to talk, which I generally don't do, but what I wanted to figure out was what do you like, just what do you do in general, like your main thing? And because I thought it was a writer, and then I was like, but I think she's also an artist, wasn't sure. So then I went onto your website, and there's lots of things that, you just also mentioned that you have dabbled in lots of things. So I would like to know how, because it seems like even though you've done lots of things, writing has been a constant. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So how long have you been writing in some capacity? Like when did you start considering yourself a writer?
Okay. So the first memory I have of writing was little fun little stories when I was about 8 years old. So yeah, that has been a constant. I also started painting when I was 8 years old. So I was doing both at the same time.
Okay.
But I've always identified with being a writer, and I always knew I would be a writer. That was a no-brainer for me because I always was journaling, and my writing was a way for me to make sense of the world and basically survive. Writing really helped me a lot throughout my life. But I did not consider myself a professional writer until quite recently, I would say. So I've been an editor longer than I've been a writer. So professionally, for mostly in the medical field, actually. Editing, yeah.
Oh.
So I was an editor of a diabetes journal, and when I was living in Vienna for several years, a transplant journal. And now I'm editing for a medical ad agency for my bread and butter, basically. So I've always been mostly an editor professionally, but as a writer, I became a writer when I made that switch from being an editor at the Epoch Times for world news and other things to writing profile stories. And then when I started writing those profile stories consistently, and that was to fill the gap for somebody who had left, it just kind of happened by default. That's when I started, people would start calling me that. Oh, she's a writer. And then I realized, oh, I guess I am a writer. But then what happened was that because I ended up writing about so many artists, I became so fascinated with what they're doing that at one point I thought, I'm tired of writing about artists. I want to be one. I don't want to be writing about it. I want to be doing it. So and then I made myself this excuse that I need to take a drawing class so that then I could be able to write about it better, and more deeply, and which I still think it's a great idea. I think all art critics should learn how to draw and paint or sculpt.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. It gives you a whole other fuller range of understanding and appreciation. The appreciation increases incredibly when you actually try to draw and paint. And so I started taking part-time classes, first privately with an artist who I wrote about, Eddie Rocha, who's an instructor at the Lime Academy. And then later at Grand Central Atelier, I started taking part-time classes when it was possible to do it in person. Now it's only online. And I've been doing that ever since. And that's been going on for 3 years. The cast drawing you see in the background is the third cast I did during COVID time. So that's how I got into it, so I could write about it better. And I do think it has helped me do that. But then I just got enamored with it. And then I thought, okay, I'm pretty much a writer who paints on Sundays, and I'm hoping eventually that will switch the other way around.
Okay.
10 years from now, I think.
Wait, what was that?
Maybe 10 years from now.
Okay. Okay, wait, I want to ask you stuff. Why do you think, I guess I'll just ask you like 2-3 questions in a row. Why do you think that writing has been constant? And what was it about talking to artists that made you, what was it about interviewing the artists that made you want to either keep talking to artists or keep talking about art? And referring to the last thing that you said there, why do you want to like switch out the writing with the artisting there? Why do you want like art to kind of like be the main thing?
Eventually. Okay, let me answer one question at a time.
Yes.
So how do I know it was a constant, and why has it been a constant? I think partly it has been how I grew up. So I grew up bilingual and moving from country to country. I was born in Chile. I ended up moving to the States the first time when I was a year old, then back to Chile when I was 5, then back to the United States when I was 12. So I grew up bilingual. And then in my adult years, I moved to Vienna, to Austria for 13 years. So when you have grown up in different cultures as a child, your identity gets formed slightly differently, because you realize there's different rules, different codes, cultural codes in different places, like different rules in different places, basically. And to be able to make sense of that, I think writing was very helpful, because it was a place for me to make sense of things. And I've always been kind of pretty much introverted, and I think writing helped me basically like kind of feel integrated.
Sounds like it was maybe a bit of an anchor.
Yes, good word. Yes, anchor for sure. Yeah, anchor for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. To answer your second question, when what was it that when I started interviewing artists to realize that that's what I wanted to do more. I think because of the art I was very lucky, because I had the choice to interview the artists that appealed to me. So I had a lot of freedom in that sense. And the artists that appealed to me, I liked their work. And I realized that what they're doing is really, it's a passion. It's a labor of love. It doesn't make sense to utilitarian kind of world. Why would you do something like that? but that appealed to me. And I mean, I think it has to do with beauty, actually, the idea of bringing more beauty into the world. And I saw that in action when I interview these artists, and I admire their courage and their sensitivity. And I wanted to be like that. And then when I started taking part-time classes, I enjoyed it so much because it was using a different part of my brain, I guess. Mm-hmm. I just enjoy it so much. It's hard. It's really hard. I mean, writing is hard too. Yes. But I don't know, the kind of difficulty in paint. I love the challenge, maybe because I'm still new at it. It gave me respite from other things. You have to be absolutely in the present moment. The other thing I've done pretty much since I was 15 is meditate. I've always been a meditator. I've tried different things. For the past, how many years? Almost 23 years I've been practicing Falun Dafa, which is very serious spiritual practice based on the Buddhist school. And so where am I going with this? Meditation. So I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
You were talking about talking to artists.
I remember now. So it's similar to meditating in that you are painting, yes. Yeah. Drawing or painting. Well, it depends what kind of drawing and painting. Like if I would be painting like Pollock, no.
Right.
No. But I mean like paint and drawing like that, mm-hmm. or like how you draw, and you have to be fully aware, fully present, fully conscious. You can't go in automatic pilot. And I find that fascinating, and it's a way of almost like so it's a practice that I think elevates you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, it elevates you, especially if you challenge yourself to do better and better and better. But it's not just about being better technically, but because once you get the basic skills, you can get into a flow with it, and things become more effortless, and that's where a lot of beauty can happen. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like. One of the words, one of my favorite words when I see art that I really enjoy is it looks effortless. You know, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You can say that about a lot of arts too, like, or athletes.
Ballet.
Yeah. It looks so easy, but I did once interview a ballet dancer, Sarah Mearns, and I saw her rehearse, and I could hear her panting, and I could see her sweating, and I could see the effort that went into it, and it was incredible. Like, she worked so hard, but when you see it on stage, and it just looks just like she defies gravity, and it's just so effortless. I would say the same, and one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, and I see their performances every year, is Shenyun Performing Arts, traditional Chinese classical dance company that's reviving traditional Chinese culture. They have a new program every year, and it's just, the only way I can describe it is absolute beauty. What they're doing, it's incredible, and I never tire of seeing them. And I think that's one of the main aspects of beauty, is that you never get tired of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So then I would like you to go a bit more into why do you want fine art, or like the pursuit of art in your life, to become a bigger part, and to kind of like switch it out with writing, or why do you have this
wish? I don't know if it'll happen, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a full switch. I mean, I know a couple of painters who are also writers, and they do both. And Samuel, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I have his book right there. Hang on one second. It's Adakwe. I don't know how to pronounce his name. This is his book. He was the teacher of Colleen Barry.
Mm-hmm.
And he writes books. And I said, how do you do it? How do you do both? And he said, well, I write in the evening, I paint in the day.
I see.
Having two mistresses.
Yeah.
I think it's possible to do both, but why do I don't know.
Well, but I mean, it also kind of seems like you don't strictly want like a switch necessarily. Like, I mean, it seems like rather you would just want art to have also a more significant part in your life, and maybe, and indeed, like the guy you just told me about, Adakwe, you want both to have a large part in your life, where it's like, oh, I'm awake and I'm asleep, I'm writing and I'm painting. I mean, something like that. And I mean, I think that's great. I mean,
George Vasari, he was a writer and a painter. It's not something that's that unusual.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I agree with that, because I mean, I don't know, it makes sense. Some people say that art cannot be described with words, or beauty cannot be described with words, and it's like, in a way, it's like they're balancing each other, because it's like you have one that is strictly visual, or just stuff that you can see or feel, and then the other one is completely verbal. So it's like this, it seems like a yin yang, basically, in the sense that, they might have a little bit of each other in them, but they basically lack what the other one has.
Exactly. And sometimes certain things just defy words, and you just have to express in a different way. Maybe it doesn't have to be through painting. Maybe it can be through a movement or a dance.
Yeah.
Or some other way. But yes, I think the best art defies words. And I think that's also the struggle. Like, sometimes when I'm writing about art, I'm just like, this doesn't come even close to how I want.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get cringy, like when my editor steps in too soon, when I'm in the drafting phase, and I'm just, that's it. I think certain things just words can't express. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the pain. I mean, that's the pain of writing. You want to try to express something, but you can't find the words for it. And it's like you have to, I don't know, you conjure them from somewhere, like pull them from somewhere.
Force them somehow. What exactly does an editor do? Just real quick.
Okay, so the best analogy for an editor, I would say, is like a makeup artist, right?
Uh-huh.
So what an editor does, it just makes your writing look better, sound better, read better. So, I mean, with a makeup artist, you want to make the person look better and enhance their features, but you don't want to change them. You don't want to do plastic surgery. You just enhancing what they have already. So I always thought of that. So when I'm editing somebody else's work, as soon as I feel like, I have to do plastic surgery here, I send it back to the to the writer and say, hey, you have to rewrite this because you have to do it in your own voice. And then, I'll put the finishing touches on it. I love working with Peter Tripp. He's such a good editor. It's like after I send my writing to him and it comes back, I feel like my writing went to a spa, and the best treatment, because he just makes it flow so much better. So that's what an editor does. And it's different. It's a critical part of the brain. It's so, it's more objective. You try to be more objective. So but you're editing, when you're drawing or painting, it's like when you take time, you step back, you put it away, and then you look at it again, and then you see it with fresh eyes, and then you see what needs to be fixed, and then you fix it. That's what an editor does.
Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, I definitely feel that way. I mean, I feel that way constantly, like the entire time that I'm making work, basically. It's like I'm basically editing it until it's done editing, sort of, in a way. It's because I feel like I'm making little changes, and not strictly corrections, but just changes the entire time until it looks like what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or rewriting. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the relationship between art and between, I guess, visual and verbal, because I mean, I'm not a writer. I do like to write sometimes. I want to talk about something or elaborate about something or develop an idea or whatever. And I have a blog and everything, but I don't know. So you can tell me what you think about this, because I have like a twinge of an issue when somebody is like, oh, I can't put this into words, or words cannot describe, because I kind of feel like it's a cop out in a way. It's like, okay, so like now I don't have to put in the work to try to describe this accurately. So like it sounds a little bit like that to me. So like I also really enjoy the versatility of language, and I'm also bilingual. I'm from Panama. And so like, you know, there are expressions that feel, quote unquote, a certain way. And I'm like, I wonder how could I say this in English? Or I wonder how could I say this in Spanish? It's like, is there like a similar version of this? And then like, I'll ask my dad because he's a translator.
Wow.
Yeah. And he'll tell me a word, and then I'm like, I don't like that. You know, it doesn't feel the same. So then I'll go to the thesaurus or something, and then I'll look for a word that I like how it looks, and I like how it sounds, and like all of this stuff. So it's like, I feel like even though sometimes it's more difficult than other times, I feel like it's definitely possible to at least most things describe them verbally. Because I don't know, I feel like I don't know, verbal language is just vital to us at this point. It's like, how would we ever survive without talking the way that we do, or writing the way that we do, or reading the way that we do? So I don't know, I feel like that kind of whatever, saying that something cannot be described with words doesn't give language enough credit in a way. You know, like, so what do you think about that?
It's true. It can be used as a cop out. It depends in what context it's used.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Sometimes it actually is true. Some things do define words, but in other cases it can be used as a cop out. And I think you're right. I think language writing is extremely important. Extremely. I think there's this saying that if you haven't written something, you haven't really thought it through thoroughly, because you're externalizing thought sitting on the page. And once you have that, you can actually look at it more objectively and refine it and help you think and kind of bounce off of that constantly. So it's a way of helping us think, conceptualize, which is absolutely crucial, just for everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, what you were saying just now about how seeing the words you just thought, I mean, seeing them written, that's not that dissimilar actually to art as well, because that's kind of how I think of my work, I guess. It's like the reason for, or one of the big reasons for which I draw, is that I have a mental image that I want to see with my eyeballs instead of in my mind's eye, So it's like, that's very similar. And it's like, I don't know, like an analog practically. But yeah, the whole thing about seeing the phrase and then being like, oh, switching things out, or like maybe looking for a better word, that really reminds me of Dr. Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you know this person, but he's a clinical psychologist. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
So he's awesome. And he has an essay writing guide that he wrote, I don't know how long ago, for his students. And I used that thing to rewrite my statement, my artist statement. Yeah. Because I wanted to make a long statement. And so like, listening to him talk and like following the instructions of the essay writing guide, it's like him and my husband have taught me critical thinking and just thinking in general, really. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like if somebody allows themselves to be taught by the words and by writing and wanting to do it well, it's like that'll take your brains to a whole other level. It's pretty cool. Yeah, that's good stuff. I think actually more recently, I think Jordan with his family, because like lots of his projects are developed with his family, they're making an app or something. I think it's called Essay, that's also to help teach people how to write, which is really cool. Yeah. Because it's like I think that when you're, maybe not strictly in the editorial sense, but even with just like a smidge of critical thinking or like not fooling yourself thinking, it's like, lots of those things about let's say art talk, perhaps, quote unquote, or like postmodern stuff. It's like if you read that stuff, you know that that says nothing. You know that those paragraphs of stuff say nothing. And then it's like, all right, when I write, I don't want my paragraphs to say nothing. Like, it's like I want to say something. I want it to be straightforward. I want it to be well written. I don't want it to be just, I don't want it to be like just sideways or, annoying. Anyway, all right. Okay. So I just think,
agree. Yeah. No, I actually have that guide, that essay guide of Jordan Peterson. And I also took his course, the future past,
authoring,
present, and future authoring.
Yes. Nice. When did you do that?
I haven't finished.
Okay.
I did the future before I did the past or present, and I'm doing the past now. So
okay. I got that too. Yeah, I got that one too, and I actually got it more than a year ago, and I haven't touched it because I'm kind of mortified to do the past one. I mean, not that I'm like, oh, super scarred or something. I'm like risk averse, and like I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of funny.
I've done like one paragraph per month. That's how slowly it's going.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. That will probably be me also. Just like really just, all right, I have to deal with this right now.
But it's good.
Yeah, I bet, yeah. Okay. That's really cool. All right, so Ms. Fernandez, what is art in your opinion?
What is art?
Yes.
Okay. In the simplest, shortest description, I would say art is a mirror of culture and society.
Mm-hmm.
It's a repository of culture, because if you think about it, artists are sensitive people who make a gazillion choices in their creation, and all those choices are informed by what they think is important to leave behind as a kind of a record of what they thought was important to communicate. So and so art, I think, mirrors every society at every time, and any point in time. It's mirroring that culture, that society. It's a mirror and repository of culture. That's the most concise way I can think of it. I actually wrote something down earlier this morning because I knew I might like become like blank, because it's such a complex. And these two questions that you ask all your guests, I think they're excellent. And I think it's great in the sense that you kind of after a while you see the parts that different guests might intersect or overlap with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I find fascinating. So what I wrote here, art is a collection of things like paintings, drawings, sculptures, designs. It could be film, it could be performances, and that mirror society in any given time. Art is a repository of culture. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and I think also especially art mirrors the morality of a culture.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a culture that's corrupt, that the art is going to reflect that. Or if you have a culture that's very healthy and virtuous, the art will be more beautiful, I believe. That might be a kind of naive way of thinking about it, but it's something I kind of believe in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What exactly do you mean with artists being sensitive? The sensitivity of artists, what does that mean?
Well, that's a good question. Sensitivity. So, I think artists, the best ones, I would hope, you are actually sensitive to capturing or recognizing what is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so your senses have to be open. Your eye, your perception, your way of seeing, your all your senses, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's artists notice things that maybe people who aren't artists don't notice, or they notice different things. maybe an accountant notices numbers more
Yeah.
than an artist. Artists will notice how the light falls on a tree or on a person's face, or and yeah, how to render that. So yeah, I would think that a lot of artists are sensitive in that way, and they're open to taking in the world visually. I would say mostly visually. Yeah.
Okay. So would you say it's also like also just being more aware?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because that reminds me a little bit of because indeed throughout the episodes, things in common between the stuff that people say starts coming up, and it reminded me a little bit of a common theme that has a common theme that's revealed itself, I guess, about beauty. Well, I mean, we're not talking about beauty yet, but in the sense that you know, in order to it's like if you want to experience beauty or see something beautiful, you have to look for it. It's like you have to like deliberately, you have to like make an effort to find it, and then be like, you know, the effort is, you're rewarded with whatever beauty gives you. So it's like it reminds me, so like the awareness that you're talking about in reference to artists reminds me a little bit of that, in the sense that, you know, like maybe an accountant has like a I don't know, a style of doing taxes or something. I don't know. Similarly to like an artist having also like their own visual language, like their own stylistic language that other people can recognize. And so like they happen to notice certain things that, you know, even for example, if two artists are painting the same landscape, they're going to highlight, or they're going to focus on different areas, like each one depending on what they're more aware of, or whatever it is, that whatever tendency they have in their work. Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because
Okay.
everybody's different too.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Okay. So also, this part about the mirroring no, I had another question. Just give me a second. Okay, so why is the question of what is art complex? Because I've had a couple of people before, a couple of guests before, mentioned that, you know, art wasn't, you know, first of all, the definition of art has changed throughout time. And also because I'm pretty ignorant about art history, unfortunately, you know, for now. So it seems like before it was clearer somehow what art was, what it is. So why do you think it has become complex versus it's just always been complex? If it's only just become complex, like why do you think it's become complex? It's like, why do we do this? This is why we can't have nice things, you know?
I think the term art didn't come, it's fairly recent. I mean, before, I mean, reading Vasari, it's like there were draftsmen, painters, sculptors, architects. They weren't artists. They were doing one of those things.
Okay.
And it was a craft and a skill. And so I don't know exactly when the word art came about, but the definition of it has changed, of what is considered art and what is not considered art. That has changed in the past 100 years, I would say, where it's just like, well, now it's like, well, anything goes, anything could be called art. It doesn't necessarily, you know, when you go to some modern museums, if you would teleport somebody or like time travel somebody from the like 2, 3, 4 centuries ago, and they would go to a museum today, they would not recognize that as art. So it's changed over time. And I think that's the complexity now, is because it's kind of opened up to anything. And especially like conceptual art, people don't know what it is anymore, because it's just anything goes kind of thing. But I'm more of a traditionalist in the sense of I like to think of art as still like fine art, like drawing, sculpture, painting, and so forth. So that's how I define it. Still, like not how a postmodernist would define art.
Okay, so it seems like the introduction of the term art is what what ruined everything. Because, you know, that reminds me a little bit, actually. I was reading indeed about, not too deeply or anything, some reading on the Renaissance, and it seems like Leonardo da Vinci and these really big guys wanted to add like an intellectual sort of layer to what they were doing. So like what you were saying just now about the drawing, that, you know, draftsmen, painters, architects and stuff. So like the Leonardo and Michelangelo and like these people wanted to kind of, because it seems like art and craft was basically interchangeable before, practically, you know, and then adding this alleged intellectuality to it, which, I mean, doesn't that kind of seem like a precedent to postmodernism? It's like, oh, that is what released the floodgates, because it's like then then that is what kind of allowed that, because it's like if you have like, you know, like the skill, like the physical aspect of making the thing, and then you have like the mental thing, it's like now you have like Damien Hirst being like, yeah, having ideas is art, you know, or something like that. So it's like a matter of balancing, again, like that yin yang, like the chaos and order. It's like clearly art has become too much chaos, you know? So yeah, chaos is definitely complex. It's like you have to order it in order for it to make sense. I kind of went off a little bit there in not a particular order, but what do you think?
Well, I think it actually with Michelangelo, that's when the term artist came about, because before artists were just considered kind of like craftsmen, mostly men then. But he became an artist, you know, Michelangelo was the artist. He was a genius. It was the same with Da Vinci. So they elevated it to this intellectual level as well. And also the way they wrote about it, also very intellectual. And I think it still is. There's this wonderful, wonderful book called, what is it? Let me have to get it out. It's, I'll show it to you. This is a fantastic book. David Summers, Michelangelo and the Language of Art.
Okay.
And I haven't finished it, but it's the intellectual part of, you know, the Renaissance artists.
Okay.
Quite fascinating. But did did Michelangelo da Vinci open the floodgates to postmodernism? I don't think so. No, I think that came much later. I think they would be horrified to see what things are happening now.
Yeah, okay. But okay, so then do you think that crafts, okay, but
crafts are also artful. Crafts, crafts can also be art, I think. I wouldn't necessarily separate it so much. Jewelry is an art form, but it's considered a craft because it has a function. So if a work of art has a function, I don't think it takes away from it being art or artful. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so do you think that art, you know, visual art, fine art, do you think it doesn't have a function?
I think it does have a function. It can, but it has something that's beyond that, which the function is to decorate, partly. That's like one of its functions, to decorate, to beautify, to inspire, to educate, to uplift people, to provoke thought. It has a lot of functions, I think. It's very useful. People
Yeah,
think of art as a luxury or something that's not useful. I think it's incredibly useful, incredibly important.
yeah, because I agree with all the things you just said about its uses.
We would be spiritually or just so impoverished if we didn't have art. Yes. I can't imagine a world without art. I would be sad all the time.
Yeah, no, I think that if such a world existed, it would just like be, well, I'm not sure, actually, I'm not sure that it's even possible. There's a movie called Equilibrium with Christian Bale. You've seen it?
I have not. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I'll watch it now.
So this movie is not as famous because it came out around the same time as The Matrix. But in this movie, they elaborate or develop the idea that, feelings are just the crux of humanity. And so in this dystopian future, everybody injects themselves at a specific time during the day with something that suppresses their feelings. So that is like what they're trying to do and stuff. So like there's like scenes of burning paintings and stuff because, it's bad and feelings are bad. But it's like the reason for which I think there not being art is impossible is because there is always, no matter what a person is doing, it doesn't matter what the person is doing. It's like there's always decisions that are inevitably aesthetic. It's like even if you're making those horrible renewed buildings in New York, you are choosing to make a box. Okay, it's a decision that you're making, like to make this terrible, minimalist, horrible building, but you're still making an aesthetic, it ends up being like an aesthetic thing, and then if you want to like make a little thingy like a swirl and decorate it with super pretty things, it's like that's also aesthetic decision. So it's like I don't feel like there's a way to escape that. It's like no matter if you're making anything in any capacity, you are making decisions that end up affecting the way that thing is going to look as a whole. I mean, it's like if you're talking about music, you're talking about writing, you're talking about architecture, you're talking about, I don't know, editing a book cover. I mean, accounting, anything. It's like, I feel like there's decisions there that affect the end result of the thing that are arguably aesthetic decisions. So like, what do you think about that?
That every decision is an aesthetic decision?
Or could arguably at least be an aesthetic decision.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how aesthetically pleasing is it? A skyscraper to to Beaux-Arts building, which one's more aesthetically pleasing? Is it just, I guess it depends on the person's taste, what they find more aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, I guess everything could be aesthetic. It's just a matter of to what degree it is or isn't. Yeah, there's always choices, right?
Yes.
I'm not sure question.
What's that? Oh yeah.
No, because I answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I mean I just feel like there's decisions at every turn basically. Because I mean I'm gonna bring up accounting again, but not that I have any experience with that. I don't know. It's I'm just like mortified to just a halt every tax season. But if you're an accountant who's familiar with that, it's like the way that you present the tax return or something, because it's like, they've tried to standardize it with the document itself, but it's like, even then when you have to like attach documents or something, it's like you could be more organized or you can be disorganized or sloppy and stuff. So it's like, that is arguably, it's like organized is arguably more pretty. It's like, you don't have paper sticking out like in a cartoon, so like that's prettier and stuff. Or I would consider that prettier at least, or like more appealing, sort of. But it's not like repellent that I want to run away from a pile of paper.
Yeah, I think that connects with the idea of grace. I think that, and I also thought, for some reason I thought of Indonesia. I've never been to Indonesia, but I understand. Why am I thinking about Indonesia? I got my undergrad degree in anthropology, and one thing I remember from studying a little bit about Indonesia is that, especially in Bali, they see everything as being art. So that everything is, even the way, if you're going to make bread, the way you knead the dough, you'd have to do it in a certain aesthetically pleasing, artful way. The way you walk to deliver mail, or anything. And I think a culture that's aesthetically elevated, and in the ideal sense, everything would look graceful and be artfully done, and the aesthetic choices would be all beautiful. So that's my idea of paradise.
Yeah, it sounds very nice indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I had another question. Do we have time? Okay. All right. Okay. What is beauty in your opinion?
Okay, beauty. So there's this wonderful quote by Plato, and where did I have it? I wrote it down before I would forget, and it's very short. He says that at the sight of beauty, the soul grows wings. So what does that mean? I think beauty is, I mean, an obvious example is nature, right?
Yes.
I mean, somebody would argue that a sunset is not beautiful. Every sunset's beautiful. Nature, like what do they say? The sunset is God's paint brush strokes or something. I don't know. Take this quote. I don't know where I read that. And it's a very difficult question to answer, and I think, yeah, it arrests you. Like when you see something absolutely beautiful, it stops you, it arrests you. And what is it doing to you at that moment? I think it connects you with what's divine. So when you recognize beauty in something, it's like you're remembering. It's like a memory that's awakened, and you're remembering your divinity, because I think everybody has a divine side to them, and that gets awakened. Yeah, it's like a sign of I'm at loss for words. I think maybe it was Patty Watwood that said it, and I don't know if I'm paraphrasing what she said, but it's like breadcrumbs to the divine. Like it's a breadcrumb trail to the divine, basically. Shen Yun, I mentioned earlier, Shen Yun is like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And Shen Yun actually means the beauty of divine beings dancing. And the name describes perfectly what they're doing. It just feels like that when you see them on stage. It's incredible. Yeah, so that's my short definition of beauty. If that's a definition, I don't know. I can't define it very well, but it arrests you. You never tire of it. It inspires you. It's also connected with truth. So I think for beauty to be really, truly beautiful, it has to be authentic. It can't be fake. And I also think it's connected with virtue. And so if somebody, or it depends, what state you're in. How can I come up with an analogy? I've been wearing glasses since I was 7 years old. And so my vision isn't very good. I have to wear glasses all the time. But there was one time where I was meditating in the park, and I wasn't wearing glasses. I had taken my glasses off. And I was so relaxed, and I was in such a wonderful, peaceful state that I swear I thought I could see better without my glasses. Like I could see the grass more vibrant. And because I was in that state, it almost, in that incredibly peaceful, relaxed state, I could perceive the beauty of the grass better. So I think we have more access to beauty when we're in a good state, when we are at our best, when we are being true to ourselves, to other people. And I think that's also why the reason why people's judgment of what's beautiful and what's not is so different, because we're all different and we're in different states of being open to that, to divinity, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is this divinity you speak of?
I love how you ask questions. This divinity you speak. Oh my goodness, that's good question. What does this divinity you speak of? Something that transcends what we readily see and accept. There's something beyond this world that we don't have access to.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get a glimpse of beauty, it's like you get a little glimpse, a little access to that divinity that normally we don't have access to. So, because we're limited as human beings, we're limited. So when you see beauty, it's like it opens this little door and you get a little glimpse, you know. That's why I love this quote, like, at the sight of beauty, the soul grows wings.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels like that, you know, you feel like, oh, you feel lighter. Yeah. Yeah, divinity. Gosh, so difficult to find that. It's a matter of belief as well. I mean, not everybody believes in what's the divine. Everybody's different. Yeah, if you're lucky,
Yeah,
you can have more access to beauty.
yeah. I mean, I'm asking, not exact. It's not because I don't know. It's not exactly because I don't know what divinity is, because I have an idea of what it is, perhaps. But I guess I just want to just know what you think about it. And it's like, when I think about something divine, I mean, would you say that sacred is like maybe like a synonym, or the same or similar to divine?
Yeah, I think it's sacred. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then when I think about something sacred, or possibly divine also, there's like, I'm gonna try to like muse about the things that come to mind. Okay, so there's like this, there's or I feel rather respectful towards the whatever I seems divine, or when something seems sacred or it seems ancient, like a very long tradition of something. Because I mean, I was raised Catholic, and I mean, I don't believe in that for a very long time, but it, the sense of there being a sense of sacredness or divinity, or just very deeply important about nature, for example, the body, the human body, that is still there. It's like, I often think that if I was to worship anything, and I probably do arguably with my work, it would be nature and the human body, in the same way that other people think of the Christian God and this type of stuff. So like there's something, it's like, so then in that case, if I think about the human body and nature, it's like there's this like reverence and respect and admiration, and it's like, oh my God, you are just amazing, teach me something of this stuff, like I want to learn from you, or there's just something there that I must learn, and so I have to be a patient student, a studious student, like this stuff. So what do you think, how does that compare with what you were thinking about divine?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. The human body, for sure. I took an anatomy class at GCA during online during the pandemic, and I was amazed. Just like, oh, this is how the elbow is constructed. And I was like touching my elbow. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like, I mean, when you start to learn how the human body is constructed, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's an incredible design. It's so beautiful, actually. So, and I think there's something sacred about the body. And also that's because when people die, we treat the body in a very sacred way. We put them in a box, or, you have a ritual, and there's reverence there yeah. Why am I going there? Yeah, the human body for sure. There's this sacred. I don't necessarily think divinity is connected to religion. It doesn't have to be. Actually, I think organized religion doesn't do it for me either. That's just a formality, human formality. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee of there being divinity necessarily. Somewhere like, say, a church, just because it's a church, it could be a very corrupt church.
Yeah.
It's in nature, it's everywhere. So it's not like in one place. It can be anywhere. You can find it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Not just art, or it could be in someone's words, or I don't know, any number of things.
Okay. Yeah, that thing about it being able to find it anywhere reminds me actually of it reminds me of like a Catholic thing where it's like, God is everywhere, kind of.
Oh, right. Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Which is I don't know. I think it's kind of an interesting coincidence there. That's another thing that I have, like, I don't know, caught, quote unquote, from Jordan Peterson, that he does like these analyses of the Bible and just like religion in general from like a psychological perspective. And it's like, wow, it's like brought this whole other level of, respect for, like, again, I mean, I don't believe in the Christian God or anything I don't, but it's like, I still, like, recently I've been wanting, I kind of want to go to church or something of the sort, because of the way that he talks about religion, because it's not just religion as we know it, like going to church and stuff, but it's like, it's a long line of stories, very long line, like from the beginning, that we have been telling each other just the same story over and over again. And it's like, the reason for which I kind of want to go to church is to like pay respect to that tradition somehow, or like to kind of touch that tradition somehow, because it's like, in our typically human limited view of things, it's like, oh, it's just like, yeah, the church and whatever, it killed people. And it's like, okay, yeah, but give me a second here. It's like, that's not the whole, think about the stories that we're telling each other here and what they're teaching us each time that we tell the story. And it's like the depth of the story. And it's like, those same stories are so important that we have kept repeating it over and over again for millennia, longer than, any kind of postmodernism.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I mean, perhaps tangential, because maybe, we were talking about divinity and stuff, but okay.
Just to add to that is like,
yes,
my father was a neurophysiologist. He's a scientist, and he was an atheist. But whenever we went on vacation, we would always go inside the churches. Why?
Yeah,
because they're beautiful.
Yes.
And they would go in there to admire as tourists, and so.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something there for sure.
Something there.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ms. Fernandez, we have reached the 56-minute mark of our conversation here. This has been lovely. Why don't you tell thank you very much for joining us, for joining me in this conversation.
My pleasure.
Yeah, this was awesome. I think, if it's cool with you, I think I would like to chit chat about other things just another time over a coffee or something.
Oh, anytime.
That's awesome. Okay, good. Yeah, so Milène, please tell our listeners and future listeners and viewers what you're up to lately and where your work can be found, anything you're working on.
What I'm working on. So I have a website. It's milenejf.com. That's spelled milenejf.com. And it's sort of like my extended business card. And I'm writing currently for Fine Art Connoisseur an article that I've been working on about realist art. As sort of a cross-section of realist art today through my lens, is going to be published in the next issue of Fine Art Connoisseur. I also have an article that will come up in a forthcoming magazine called Crayon, and that will be launched sometime in the spring, I believe. What else? Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Okay, lovely. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Milène, for joining me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Feel free to let Milène and I know what you think of this conversation in the comments section. I also invite you to subscribe to my audiovisual channel because more of these conversations are coming. I also invite you to like this video and share it with any and all pertinent individuals. If you want to support Milène, myself, this podcast, or all three, the links will be in the show notes. So thank you, everyone, and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.